Yeah, Weege Show coming to you from my office, and all I can do is say wow. And thanks to Racetech and their gold valves. Suspension will be plusher, better bottoming resistance, better traction, made and engineered in the USA. No supply chain issues. Go to racetech.com for more. Look, see, the only reason I thought I would be upset that I didn't go to the finale of Monster Energy AMA Supercross at Rice-Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City was because I was going to miss the final AMA Supercross race of my good buddy Justin Brayton. Obviously, it's a guy I respect big time, and really a lot more of it is the off-the-track stuff than the on-the-track stuff. The essence of Justin Brayton is very hard to sum up with stats or results, or when they put the thing on the screen and says he's raced 190 times and he's won one race. I'm sure fans on the outside are like, why are they celebrating that? But that was never really the point of Justin Brayton. I've learned a lot about life. The guy's wise beyond his years, even though he's the oldest rider in the sport at 38 years old. The guy is very wise, and I appreciate the advice and the friendship and all those things. That was the only thing I thought I would regret missing at Salt Lake City, but who knows? That we ended up having a spectacular race and crowd. They were fired up right down to the end. I'm going to get to this post-race press conference here on Zoom. See, this Daniel Blair guy is on stage and he's about to start it. We'll find out if anything else interesting comes of that, and we'll be right back. First, they did actually bring Justin Brayton to the post-race press conference. That was cool. And they even went over to me on Zoom to show respect to JB10. I asked him about his humble roots, was not an amateur superstar, was not a rider expected to be at this level, and what was it like to have respect from his peers? Because again, the win record doesn't indicate what Brayton really means to the paddock. There are so many riders that use him for advice, and so many riders that are impressed with him even when they do ride with him at the test track during the week, and that includes very high-end riders like Ken Rocks in the last few years and Chase Sexton now. And he said that actually that's probably one of the things that he enjoys the most, which is that those guys go to him for advice. He had good mentors in his time. I think he was working with Buddy Antunez, who was the king of arena cross. Brayton was early in his arena cross career, so to be taken under the wing of one of the best of that game meant a lot to him. And he's tried to help those guys as much as possible, even though he does marvel at Chase Sexton. And he joked and said, we'll take the same rut in a corner, and I cannot figure out why he's one bike length faster through there than me. So a good mix of both. I made it to that level. I get to talk to these guys as a peer and an equal, but at the same time, respect for how talented these kids are. So that wraps up Justin Brayton, and I have a feeling we'll see him at some other races as time goes by. But right now, he's purposely leaving the door open on what he's doing next and not signing his name on anything in ink and talking specifics. So that's Brayton. The real big story tonight, though, was the 250 Supercross Championship that was still up for grabs between Hunter Lawrence and Christian Craig. Now, look, Craig has taken heat this year because he's 30 years old, racing in the 250 class. He's had many, many years on good factory teams and many opportunities. But now that he's won the title, I feel like we have to take that off the table because, look, all he has done is what so many other riders in his position were not able to do. Many, many chances to put the puzzle pieces together and turn that speed and talent into wins and consistency in titles. He actually did it. And I asked him about working on the weaknesses, which is the hardest part for any athlete or really any person to do. And he said, yeah, it starts with being honest with yourself. And he did a lot of work, for example, on corners in the offseason because his corners weren't good enough. We can marvel about Craig's whoop speed and how good he looks on a bike through a rhythm lane, but he had to work on other things. And he's surrounded, of course, by so much talent and such a rock-solid foundation of championships with that Monster Energy Yamaha Star Racing team. And he said one thing that really boosted him this weekend is Dylan Ferrandis showed up in the rig. He didn't expect Dylan to even be at the race, and Dylan said, I'm here for you. And that kind of took the edge off. He did feel pretty calm until he fell down in the main event, and then he tightened up. And how weird is it that Nate Thrasher now has 3 Supercross wins and virtually no other good results in his pro career to talk about at all? It's one of the most puzzling things of all. But Nate did explain a little bit why this year didn't go to plan, because he had a shoulder injury that went all the way back to Lucas Oil Pro Motocross last year at Millville, and he was expecting to race East, and then the deck got shuffled with other riders on his team getting injured. He'd only been riding for 4 weeks before Anaheim. He really wasn't ready. And then during the week, he couldn't really work the shoulder to get strength in it because he needed to rest up for the weekends. So the first couple of rounds before the break were a complete wash for him. Felt he rode good in Seattle, poorly in Denver, and that leads us here to this finale. So it seems crazy to think in a 9-round series we only saw the real Nate Thrasher once, but that's the way he would like to play it. Must have been something wrong with Hunter Lawrence, because he said he was actually watching the clock trying to manage his energy so he wouldn't run out of it during the main, and he trying to bide his time and wait and then put in a charge late. Thrasher was having problems with the whoops. You probably saw his hand come off at one point, but Thrasher was able, he said, to adjust his line of the whoops. Probably waited a little too long for that, but he did adjust it at the end, and it was enough to hold Hunter back. Hunter doesn't end the year with a 4-race win streak, but I believe Hunter must have been sick coming into this race because he had a lot of talk about managing his energy, or maybe it was just the altitude. But either way, Thrasher has a win. It was also dicey that he had to pass Craig to do it, but Craig has the title. He did it. He shored up the weaknesses. He figured out the consistency. Look, I used to say that Christian Craig is the smoothest rider I've ever seen crash so much. And he still did have some crashes this year. But obviously, he is by many, many, many measures more consistent than he ever was in the past. That's not something that happens automatically. And we've seen many riders try to fix that and fail. So congratulations to him on what's a very emotional title. The 450 Supercross main event, you pretty much knew that Jason Anderson was going to get it. And that's why we all thought this would be a bit of a snooze fest of an event. And maybe Brayton's finale might be the only thing worth watching. But oh no. It is a long-standing tradition at this sport when you talk to top riders about finishing 3rd or 5th in a series. They generally don't care because they race to win titles. That was clearly not the case with the battle for 3rd in the points because Malcolm Stewart passed Justin Barcia, and Justin Barcia, well, he went bam bam. We've kind of poked fun at Barcia through the years over the fact that on the track, he is an aggressor and he wears Bam Bam, you know, sometimes on the back of his pants and things like that as a nickname. But then he'll say, I used to be Bam Bam. I don't really ride like that. I don't know what you guys are talking about. He'll say that sometimes. But this one was so egregious. As Adam Cianciarulo said in the TV show, when you have a head-on situation in a turn where someone's already exiting and you're coming in, the head-on collision type scenario, Barcia had to own it this time. And if he wasn't going to, the fans were going to make him because they were going absolutely bonkers with Mookie Fever, hoping that Stewart could catch back up. And it really made what was a zero-sum game of it didn't really matter who won this race because the title was already wrapped up by Eli Tomac. It really made it quite darn exciting right down to the end. It's about as loud I've ever seen a crowd. They probably booed Marvin Musquin to the same level when he took Tomac out to win in Foxborough in 2018. But Barcia literally got booed when he came across the finish line getting in 3rd. I don't think I've ever heard quite that thing before. And then, of course, they were letting him have it on the podium. They were going absolutely bonkers for Stewart. And Stewart, in the words of Jerry Seinfeld, the best revenge is living well. And Stewart did still score enough points to wrestle 3rd in the championship away from Barcia. Clearly, there were bonuses on the line because they were both going for it big time. And Marvin Musquin had an outside shot at 3rd, and he was going for it too, and even got into it a bit with his teammate Cooper Webb. So for a finale where often the riders are just cruising it in and we have nothing to talk about, it was darned exciting. And I'm glad it was because the injuries, yes, were a story of this Monster Energy AMA Supercross campaign, but I've said this many times. We have seen seasons with even more injuries. Because if you look at the field that we had here at this finale, with Sexton a close second to Anderson, with the Musquin, Barcia, Stewart, Webb group, that's still some pretty good talent. Yes, we don't have all the talent we had at Anaheim 1, but we have seen years even thinner than this at the end. And for the most part, all of the races were pretty exciting. And a lot of that is because Anderson, when he wins races, man, he's so loose, he's so aggressive, he makes it fun to watch. And this is one of the few races this year, by the way, where Anderson really nailed his starts. A lot of his wins, he had to make some passes. Not terrible starts, but he'd come from 4th or 5th and have to make his way forward. Such as the one he had at Foxborough a few weeks ago. And that makes it pretty fun to watch. So I think it was a really exciting, a really fun campaign. We've seen the Lawrence brothers come of age. They've gone from hype to reality here. They had a shot at winning 2 titles. If anyone wants to say that the Lawrence brothers are getting overhyped, are you kidding me? 2 brothers almost won both titles. They won about half of the races in 250 Supercross. That's unbelievable. You had the Christian Craig story, which is a great one with all the ups and downs he's gone through. And so many people jumping aboard the Eli Tomac train. What a great season for him. And I think people really respect seeing these riders they've gotten to know so well through the years, like Tomac and Anderson, veterans of the game, riders they feel that they know. And seeing them reach the heights again. You don't know what it's got until it's gone, right? Well, it looked like it might have been gone for Anderson and Tomac, and they were able to get it back. And I think people really respect them and respect seeing that. A great season for those two, and they kept it pretty darn exciting even at the end, even if Tomac wasn't actually there. Would have been nice if I could have gone. Could have said bye to JB and enjoyed a spectacular last lap with the crowd probably more revved up than they've been in any other lap of the year. 2022 Monster Energy AMA Supercross going out with a bang. Thanks for watching the Weege Show. Lucas Oil Pro Motocross coming up in just a few weeks. We'll be there.